Welcome back, the rare and valuable coins. Today, we're diving deep into the world of United States Washington quarter. Coins, but not just any dollars, we're talking about the ones that sold for thousands of dollars at auction. So let's get started. First up, the 1982 Washington quarter dollar with D mint mark in fine condition. This is one of those coins that's been part of the US Treasury for decades, and it's one you might just have lying around in your collection or a coin jar. In today's video, we're going to take a deep dive into its history, design, and most importantly, its value in the market today. So, let's get started. Here it is, the 1982 Washington quarter dollar, minted in Denver, as indicated by the D mint mark. The Washington quarter has been a staple of U.S. currency since 1932. It's a coin with an iconic design that pays tribute to George Washington, the first president of the United States. This particular coin was part of the regular release during 1982, but like any other, its value can fluctuate depending on its condition and rarity. Before we dive into its value, let's quickly go over the history and design of the Washington quarter. On the obverse, the front, we have a profile of George Washington, based on a design by artist John Flanagan. Washington's portrait is surrounded by the inscription Liberty and the year of minting, in this case, 1982. On the reverse, we see a magnificent eagle with its wings spread wide, representing the strength and spirit of the United States. The reverse also includes the words United States of America and E pluribus unum, which is Latin for out of many, one. Now, let's talk about the D mint mark. This means the coin was minted at the Denver Mint, which has been producing coins since 1906. The Denver Mint is responsible for many millions of coins every year, and coins with the D mint mark are common, especially for quarters from the 1980s. But don't let that fool you. Even though it was produced in large numbers, the coin's value will depend on its condition. This coin is in fine condition. When a coin is graded as fine, it means it has some noticeable wear, but the features of the coin are still fairly recognizable. For example, the details of George Washington's profile will still be visible, but there will be some wear on the higher points of the design, such as his hair and the tips of the eagle's wings. The coin will likely have a few scratches or surface marks, but it's still in decent shape compared to more heavily worn coins. As you can see, the coin in fine condition has some wear on the high points of the design, but it still retains a significant amount of detail. The Washington quarter's distinctive features are still legible, and the coin has not been overly damaged or worn down. So, now the big question: what's the value of a 1982 Washington quarter dollar with D mint mark in fine condition in today's market? Well, the value of these coins can vary, depending on factors like demand, rarity, and condition. But in general, quarters from the 1980s, even in fine condition, are not highly sought after by collectors unless they have unique characteristics like errors or extreme wear. Based on recent auction data and sales trends, the value of a 1982 Washington quarter with D mint mark in fine condition typically falls in the range of about 50 cents to $50. You're not going to get a fortune for this coin, but if it's in your collection, it does have some value beyond just its face value of 25 cents. Keep in mind that values can fluctuate based on the market, so if you've got this coin in fine condition and you're looking to sell, it's always a good idea to check current listings from reputable dealers or auction sites. Some collectors may be willing to pay a little more, depending on the coin's eye appeal, the condition, and how well it's been preserved. Even though this coin may not break the bank, it's still an important part of U.S. coinage. The 1982 Washington quarter represents a piece of the 1980s in American history, and it's a great coin to have in your collection. The fact that it's from a period when the U.S. Mint was producing millions of coins each year adds to its significance, even if it's not a rare one. It's worth mentioning that collectors who focus on collecting coins from specific years or with certain mint marks might pay a little more for these quarters. And if you're collecting quarters from the entire Washington quarter series, then this 1982 coin is a great addition to complete your set. So, to wrap it up, the 1982 Washington quarter dollar with D mint mark in fine condition typically holds a value of 50 cents to $1 in today's market. While it might not be the most valuable coin in your collection, it's definitely a solid find and a great example of everyday U.S. currency from the 1980s. If you have one of these, you can rest assured it's a nice piece of numismatic history. Next up, the 1984 Washington quarter dollar with P mint mark in fine condition. This coin has been around for over 30 years. But how much is it worth today? We're going to take a deep dive into its history, design, and its value in today's market. So, let's jump right in. Here it is, the 1984 Washington quarter dollar with the P mint mark located just below the eagle on the reverse. This quarter was part of the regular issue coinage from 1984, produced by the Philadelphia Mint, as indicated by that P mint mark. Now, while many of these quarters were produced in the millions, their value can still vary depending on their condition. Before we go over the value, let's quickly touch on the design of the Washington quarter. The obverse, front, features a portrait of George Washington, designed by artist John Flanagan. This portrait has remained almost identical since the coin's introduction in 1932, giving the Washington quarter a timeless look. Surrounding the portrait are the words Liberty and the year of minting, 1984, along with In God We Trust. On the reverse, you'll find a majestic eagle with its wings spread wide, holding an olive branch in one talon and arrows in the other. Below the eagle is the inscription United States of America, with E pluribus unum above, meaning out of many, one. The P mint mark on the reverse indicates that this quarter was minted in Philadelphia, which, interestingly, became the first U.S. mint to produce coins with P mint mark in 1980. Before that, Philadelphia coins didn't have a mint mark at all, but since then, the P mint mark has been used on coins from this facility. Now let's talk about the condition of this coin. The 1984 Washington quarter we're discussing is in fine condition. So, what exactly does that mean? A coin in fine condition will show some noticeable wear, especially on the higher points of the design, like George Washington's hair and the eagle's wings. The details will still be recognizable, but there will be a bit of smoothing or rubbing, and you may also see some scratches or dirt buildup on the surface. Despite this wear, the overall design is still clear, making it a nice piece for a collector. As you can see in this close-up, the coin shows some wear, especially on the high points, but it still maintains a lot of detail. The profile of George Washington is still easily identifiable, and the eagle on the reverse is also in good shape, though not as sharp as it would be on a coin in higher grades like uncirculated condition. So, you're probably wondering what's the value of a 1984 Washington quarter with P mint mark in fine condition in today's market? Well, as I've mentioned before, the value of a coin depends on a variety of factors, including its rarity, condition, and demand in the market. For a 1984 Washington quarter with a P mint mark in fine condition, the value typically ranges between $40. While it isn't a high-value coin, it's still a nice find if you happen to have it in your collection. Looking at the trends over the past few years, the value of these coins has remained relatively stable. Since it's a fairly common coin from the 1980s, it doesn't have the same level of interest as rarer coins. However, the fine condition does make it a little more valuable than one that's heavily worn or damaged. If you're looking to sell or trade this coin, the market value will usually be between $60. But if you're just starting your collection or adding this coin to an existing set of Washington quarters, it's a great piece to have. It's a tangible connection to 1980s American history and a great representation of coinage from that time period. While the 1984 Washington quarter isn't a high-value coin in terms of monetary worth, it's definitely an important piece for collectors. It's also a coin that reflects the broader trends in U.S. coinage from the 1980s, which were characterized by regular production and widespread circulation. Next up, the 1966 Washington quarter dollar without a mint mark in damaged condition. We're going to talk about its design, history, and of course, its current value in today's market. Let's get started. Here it is, the 1966 Washington quarter. If you're holding one of these in your hand, you're looking at a piece of U.S. coinage that has an interesting backstory. Produced at the height of the 1960s, the 1966 Washington quarter was part of the standard circulation, minted by the Philadelphia Mint since it doesn't feature a mint mark. While the design is well known, the coin's damaged condition impacts its value, and that's what we'll explore in this video. Now, let's talk about the design of the 1966 Washington quarter. On the obverse, front, we see the iconic portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. Washington has been depicted on the quarter ever since 1932, and his profile has remained almost unchanged. Above the portrait, you'll find the word Liberty, the mint year, 1966, and the inscription In God We Trust on the reverse. There's an eagle in flight, gripping an olive branch and arrows in its talons. The reverse is also inscribed with United States of America and E pluribus unum. The design is strong, and even in a damaged coin, you can often still make out the eagle's wings and its overall shape. However, this particular coin is in damaged condition. So, what does damaged condition really mean? Well, when a coin is damaged, it typically shows signs of wear that go beyond normal circulation use. This could include scratches, dents, bent edges, or discoloration from exposure to harsh environments or mishandling. As you can see in this close-up, this 1966 quarter has some noticeable scratches across its surface, along with other dings and discoloration that might make it hard to discern some of the finer details. When coins like this are damaged, they lose some of their original beauty and definition, but that doesn't mean they lose all value. Now that we've covered the design and condition, let's talk about the value of a 1966 Washington quarter without a mint mark in damaged condition. As many of you know, the value of a coin is influenced by a number of factors, including its rarity, demand, and of course, condition. The 1966 Washington quarter was produced in large quantities, with a mintage of over 1 billion coins, making it quite common. In damaged condition, the value drops significantly since collectors generally prefer coins that are in better condition for their collections. So, in today's market, the value of a damaged 1966 Washington quarter is usually around $200, depending on the severity of the damage. For example, a coin with minor surface damage might fetch closer to the lower end of that range, while one with heavier wear could be closer to the 50-cent mark. When we look at the trends over the past few years, the value of damaged coins like this tends to stay stable, primarily due to the large mintage. However, if the coin were in unscathed or uncirculated condition, its value would be significantly higher, possibly around $210 to $300 or more, depending on the condition and demand. But don't be discouraged. Even though the 1966 Washington quarter in damaged condition may not be worth much in terms of market value, it still has its place in your collection. Damage aside, it's still a piece of American history from the mid-1960s. And remember, coins aren't just about value in dollars. They represent a moment in time, a snapshot of the past. A cool thing about collecting damaged coins is that it gives you an opportunity to preserve and understand the life cycle of coins. Next up, the 1974 Washington quarter without a mint mark, in good condition. We'll be discussing its history, design features, and of course its value in today's market. So, let's get right into it. Here it is, the 1974 Washington quarter. If you happen to have one of these in your collection, you're holding onto a quarter that reflects the early 1970s era in the United States. This particular coin was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, which, as we'll talk about later, is why it has no mint mark. The 1974 Washington quarter is quite common, but that doesn't mean it's not an interesting piece to talk about, especially when we look at its value in today's market. Let's first take a look at the design of this coin. On the obverse, the front, we have the iconic portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. Washington has graced the U.S. quarter since 1932, and his image has remained largely unchanged, serving as a constant symbol of American history and patriotism. Above the portrait, you'll find the word Liberty, and to the right, the year 1974, along with the inscription, In God We Trust on the reverse, the back, we see an eagle perched on an olive branch, with its wings spread wide, holding arrows in its talons. This eagle is surrounded by the words United States of America and E pluribus unum. This reverse design has been on the quarter since 1932, and it's one of the most recognizable features of U.S. coinage. Now, let's talk about this specific coin's condition. The 1974 Washington quarter is in good condition. For coins, good condition typically means that the coin has been circulated and has noticeable wear. but it still retains its basic details. The overall features of George Washington's portrait and the eagle are visible, though there may be some flattening of the details, particularly in the more intricate areas, like the hair or the feathers on the eagle's wings. You might also notice some surface scratches or discoloration due to the coin's journey through the hands of many people over the years. While it isn't in mint condition, it's still a decent piece that tells the story of how coins pass through circulation and retain their historical significance, even as they show signs of wear. To answer that question, we need to consider a few key factors: mintage, condition, and collector demand. The 1974 Washington quarter was minted in large quantities, with a total mintage of around 500 million coins across all denominations. This large mintage means that the coin is very common, so it's not going to be worth a huge amount, especially in a condition like good. In today's market, a 1974 Washington quarter in good condition is generally worth around $80. The lower end of the range is for coins that are more worn or have significant damage, while coins at the higher end of the range may show slightly better details. But regardless, it's important to note that circulated coins from this era aren't typically worth a lot unless they're in exceptional condition or have some unique features, like a minting error. If you were looking at a higher grade coin, say one in uncirculated or gem condition, the value could be much higher. For example, uncirculated 1974 quarters might be worth around $120, depending on their quality. But for coins like this one, which have been through the circulation ringer, the value remains modest. Next up, the 1990 Washington quarter with D mint mark in extra fine condition. We'll explore its design, history, and of course, we'll dive into its value in today's market. If you have one of these coins in your collection, you're in for a treat, so let's get started. Here it is, the 1990 Washington quarter. As you can see, this coin is a part of the ongoing series of Washington quarters that have been in circulation since 1932. This specific coin was minted in Denver, which is why you'll see the D mint mark on the reverse side. It's important to note that this coin was produced during the 1980s and early 1990s, which is a period marked by the consistent design and continued use of George Washington's portrait on the quarter. Let's first take a closer look at the design of the coin. On the obverse, the front, we see the classic portrait of George Washington, which was designed by John Flanagan. Washington's portrait is shown facing left, with his hair neatly styled and his face carefully rendered. Above him, you'll find the word Liberty, and to the right, the year 1990 is engraved, along with the inscription, "In God We Trust." Now, moving to the reverse, the back of the coin, we see the image of an eagle perched on an olive branch, wings spread wide, clutching arrows. The eagle is an enduring symbol of American strength and freedom. Surrounding the eagle are the words United States of America and E pluribus unum, which translates to out of many, one. You'll also spot the D mint mark near the bottom, indicating that this coin was struck at the Denver Mint. Now, let's talk about the condition of this particular coin, extra fine condition. In coin grading, extra fine, often abbreviated as XF, is a term used to describe coins that have been circulated but show only minor wear. For a 1990 Washington quarter in extra fine condition, you should expect to see crisp and sharp details, especially on George Washington's portrait and the eagle's feathers. There may be some light wear on the high points, like the hair on Washington's head or the feathers on the eagle's wings, but the design elements remain well defined. One of the key features of an extra fine coin is that it has retained much of its original luster, meaning it still has a bright appearance but has been worn down slightly from circulation. You won't find the deep wear seen in coins that are in good or fine condition, making this extra fine example a much more desirable coin for collectors. So, with the coin's design and condition in mind, let's talk about the value of the 1990 Washington quarter with a D mint mark in extra fine condition in today's market. In terms of mintage, the 1990 Washington quarter was struck in significant numbers, with over 600 million coins minted across all three mints, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. While this may seem like a large mintage, It's important to keep in mind that extra fine condition coins are much more sought after than those in poor or heavily worn states. In today's market, a 1990 Washington quarter with D mint mark in extra fine condition is generally worth between $12,000. The exact value can vary depending on factors like the coin's specific grade, any unique features it may have, and fluctuations in the coin market. The value of these coins has remained relatively stable over time due to their relatively high mintage. However, extra fine coins tend to hold a premium over coins that are in more worn conditions. So, if you have a 1990 Washington quarter in extra fine condition, you've got yourself a coin worth more than face value, and it's a great addition to your collection. Now, you might be wondering, why should you care about a coin like this? Well, even though the 1990 Washington quarter isn't considered rare by most standards, its extra fine condition makes it more appealing to collectors. Collectors who focus on higher-grade coins appreciate these examples because they represent well-preserved pieces of history. If you're working on completing a collection of Washington quarters or a collection of U.S. quarters from specific years, this coin holds a special place. Plus, coins like these are perfect for those who want to focus on collecting quarters by their mint mark or grade. Before we wrap things up, remember that coin values can fluctuate. So, while this coin is worth around $14,000 today, values could change based on collector demand, market trends, and other factors in the numismatic world. If you're ever in doubt about your coin's value, don't hesitate to consult with a professional coin dealer or appraiser to get a more precise estimate. Thanks for tuning in. If you found this video helpful, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss out on any of our future videos. We'd also love to hear from you. Do you have a 1990 Washington quarter in your collection? How does it look? Drop a comment below and let us know.